Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping into the profound world of James Baldwin, specifically his 1964 work, Nothing Personal. Now, even though he wrote this during a time of massive social upheaval, his words reach way, way beyond that specific moment in time. This is a piece of absolute vulnerability and prophetic witness that essentially diagnosed the soul of America. And honestly, it's striking just how perfectly his insights map onto our modern crises, the extreme polarization, and the deep social divisions we're all feeling right now. This explainer is filled with the most striking quotations from this work, lines so powerful they will make you want to read the entire book immediately. We're going to break down his core arguments step by step to see exactly what Baldwin can teach us about our society today, and perhaps more importantly, what he can teach us about ourselves. Section 1. The American Illusion. A desperate horde. Baldwin doesn't pull any punches when dissecting the foundational myths of our society. Listen to this. The relevant truth is that the country was settled by a desperate, divided, and rapacious horde of people who were determined to forget their pasts and determined to make money. That word, rapacious, he's pointing directly to a fiercely greedy drive that overlooks humanity for the sake of commerce. When a culture is that determined to forget its past in the relentless pursuit of profit, it leaves behind a deep emptiness. And that emptiness literally bleeds into our physical surroundings. Baldwin writes, "Our cities are terribly unloved by the people who live in them, I mean. No one seems to feel that the city belongs to him." Think about the concrete isolation of the modern metropolitan city. He's highlighting a deep sense of alienation. We live densely packed together, yet we are profoundly disconnected. What does it actually mean to live and work in a place that you don't claim and that doesn't claim you? It breeds a really quiet, persistent loneliness. Section 2. A Loveless Nation, Living by Lies. From those unloved, disconnected physical spaces, we turn inward. Baldwin puts it beautifully but brutally. We are afraid to reveal ourselves because we trust ourselves so little. Let the psychological weight of that just sit with you for a second. The masks we wear every day don't just come from a fear of other people judging us, they come from a fundamental lack of trust in ourselves. We curate our images so carefully because we're terrified that the real us is somehow unlovable. This lack of self-trust forces us into a corner. He continues, "The truth cannot be told, even about one's attitudes. We live by lies. And not only, for example, about race, but about our very natures. The lie has penetrated to our most private moments and the most secret chambers of our hearts. Societal expectations force us into neat, artificial boxes. To fit in, we lie. We lie to each other, but far more tragically, we lie to ourselves in the deepest, most secret chambers of our hearts. We are left with a profound, collective crisis of identity." Section 3. The Terror Within. The Invention of the Stranger. Because we're in this crisis, we look away from ourselves, projecting our fears outward. Baldwin writes, "It has always been much easier because it has always seemed much safer to give a name to the evil without than to locate the terror within." This is incredibly relevant today. Psychologically, it is infinitely easier to point a finger at a scapegoat, an opposing group, an outsider, than it is to just sit down and confront our own internal anxieties and flaws. To really grasp this terror, we have to look at Baldwin's philosophical framework. He says, "And this terror has something to do with that irreducible gap between the self one invents, the self one takes oneself as being, which is, however, and by definition, a provisional self, and the undiscoverable self, which always has the power to blow the provisional self to bits." Think about that. The provisional self is the polite mask you stitch together to survive in society. The undiscoverable self is the messy, raw human underneath that threatens to destroy that perfect image at any given moment. That gap is terrifying. Because we are so deeply afraid of that raw self bursting through, we need a distraction. Baldwin explains, "And in such a crisis, at such a pressure, it becomes absolutely indispensable to discover or invent." The two words here are synonyms: the stranger, the barbarian who is responsible for our confusion and our pain. We literally invent enemies. We absolutely need a barbarian at the gates to justify our internal confusion. It keeps us from ever having to face the mirror. But what happens when the distractions finally fade? When the day is done, the noise stops, and those strangers we invented are nowhere to be found. We are forced to sit in the dark with ourselves. Section 4. The Dark 4 a.m., the Prison of the Self. 4 a.m. can be a devastating hour. The day, no matter what kind of day it was, is indisputably over. Almost instantaneously, a new day begins. And how will one bear it? We've all experienced this hour, the quiet terror of lying awake in the dark, totally stripped of our daily distractions, staring up at the ceiling and wondering how on earth we will find the strength to put the provisional self back together when the sun comes up. It is the moment of absolute despair. But right here, at the lowest possible point, we find the crucial pivot. Baldwin writes, "All lives are connected to other lives, and when one man goes, much more than the man goes with him." This is the turning point of the entire work. Baldwin insists that our survival is inherently tied to the survival of others. The private anguish of that 4 a.m. despair can only be cured by remembering our deep, inescapable communal ties. We belong to each other. Section 5. The Light of Love, the Only Salvation. Through this despair, Baldwin finds an ultimate, unshakable remedy. I have always felt that a human being could only be saved by another human being. This is the central philosophical anchor here. And he isn't talking about shallow, Hollywood-style romance. He's talking about a radical, gritty, life-saving empathy. When your provisional self falls apart, it's the outstretched hand of another human being that pulls you back from the edge. Baldwin elaborates, one discovers the light and darkness. That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. So what does it mean to bear the light? It means taking on the active responsibility to be that light for someone else. When you've survived your own 4 a.m. darkness, you have to carry that empathetic light forward for the next person who is currently trapped in the dark. The stakes, he argues, are absolute. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. This brings our whole journey full circle. If we keep living by lies, if we keep inventing strangers to hate, and if we refuse to hold each other in the dark, the sea of despair will completely engulf us. Radical love and connection are the only raft we have. And that is the profound irony of the title, Nothing Personal. Baldwin titles this massive, sweeping societal critique, Nothing Personal. Yet he shows us that everything, our politics, our unloved cities, our crises of identity, our deepest fears, is unavoidably deeply personal. You simply cannot separate the soul of the society from the individual human heart. It's all connected. Which quote hit you hardest? Comment below. And if you enjoyed this explainer, please be sure to subscribe for more literary insights.